But you see, Rumphius was always on the side of the local peoples. He started with the Asian. Let's say that's why you can call him so Asian. His whole perspective was Asian. He did his focus was not European, so that he started out with he asked the local experts in Indonesia, in the Eastern Archipelago, you know, what is this plant? What is that plant? What do you call it? What do you do with it? And he went by what they said. The people who were the healers, shall we say, were called dukuns, and they were almost all of them were women, and they all, you know, just about all of them were. And there were also some men who became famous within the community, but the daily flow of information and actual practice was definitely female. They applied plants externally, and if they ingested it internally, it was very carefully calibrated based on experience. It was purely empirical evidence over God knows how many, you know, centuries. And they were extremely careful about that, and a minister. Now in Europe, they would have immediately got a saw out or some other horrifying instrument and start cutting. And the Asians didn't do that. They would not, let's say, denigrate the body, if you like, in that sense. But by the way, this was so Rumphius would not go to a European barber surgeon, but he wasn't the only one. I mean, I found statements by a doctor, as a matter of fact, Monty, who said that he would rather die than go to a European colleague, in his case, because the reason for that is what part of it I gave you. The reason for that is that they were stuck in Galenic medicine in Europe, and so that they went according to certain precepts, and if you didn't fit into certain categories that were in the medical practice of Galen, if you didn't fit in there, then they didn't know what to do with you. In Asia, they'd never heard of Galen, and Galen was irrelevant to them. They started out from the let's say the fact of the plant first, and how that would affect somebody, and that they knew about that from experience, from centuries that had been passed on orally, of course, from generation to generation. In certain places, he mentions you got to be careful. You better do this first and let it soak for 2 days, and then you do this, and then you do that, because if you don't, you're going to be, you're either going to get killed, or you're going to be very ill, or whatever. No, this all mentions he's very careful about that. But you see in Indonesia that still to this very day, and that's you do get that feeling very much in Rumphius. What we would call reality, Western reality, and what we would call irreality, this the supernatural. In Indonesia, still very much they interpenetrate. There is no clear separation of the two.
Schultes would call it the spirit world, that they live in the spirit world.
It's always there.
And it's real.
Yeah,
it's just
very
as real
it's difficult
as
to
what we
talk
would
about.
call the objective.
Yeah, that's
real
not objective.
world.
Yeah, right. It's difficult to talk about in terms of Western terminology. It's but in Rumphius you find it all the time too. I mean, he mentioned things that that he includes, quote unquote, stories. He calls them fables, and he gets furious because there are about 4 passages where he becomes absolutely mad as a hatter, furious, because it seems, and I'm pretty much convinced of it, that the Protestant reverends went after him for including that, and wanting to include it and writing it down. All these, the lore, that's what we would call it, of the local population. And Rumphius said, no, I want to include it because it is very important. It is. If you read between the lines, what he's trying to say is that this has information that you couldn't get in any other way. And you don't have to throw it away simply because you say it's heathen. they literally used everything that grew. One of the things which is, is a very strange sensation if you think about it, that when you start reading the herbal, you walk into a green world. There's not even hardly any metal is mentioned. I mean, everything is made out of vegetal material, ships, you name it, houses, weapons, and of course foodstuffs. So it's very strange because you don't. There's absolutely nothing Western or European or even let's say Chinese or Japanese in it, because there is no finesse to it. I mean, it's just whatever is growing in the ground, they eat, and they make distinctions within grades of importance or taste, but everything is a mixture. Everything is mixed, but everything is used, so that we have information there that is rare and you will never find again. It's one of a kind. He has a whole thing about bamboo, that there were peoples on the island of Buru where the royal house was absolutely convinced of the fact that they were descendants of a large bamboo, and he said, why not?